We've talked a lot about Alabama and a lot about Georgia and a lot about Ohio State here. One team we have not talked about that we may be talking about more and more, Aaron. I mean, bum, ba-da, bum, bum, ba, ba-da, the USC Trojans. So Travis Dye, the very good running back, I think he had like 14 carries, like 120 or something the other day. He transferred from Oregon in the offseason. He said, quote, after the game, quote, "I've been on some really good teams, and this is the best team I've ever been on. And that's no disrespect to my past teams. It's just the truth." So first off, when you look at Dye's teams he was on, yeah, they were pretty good at Oregon. That said, I have no problem believing what he says there. The biggest question here, Aaron Murray, are you buying the USC hype? And by USC hype, I mean, is USC a legitimate playoff contender?
Yes, they are. Which 3 weeks ago I was not buying the thought of a team that is essentially an expansion team, but that just went around and think of like when the Houston Texans came about. What did they do? They got this player from here, this player. Any expansion team, they kind of bring a bunch of players together, then pray to God that they can figure it out. That's what USC did. The number one transfer portal team out there this offseason. And it's not just the players that are new, it's the coaching staff too. So not only are you bringing in all these players from across the country that have never played together, that have never worked together, you're also bringing a new coaching staff that doesn't know these kids. The players got to learn a new system, not only the new players, but the current players that are still there from the roster last year. So that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of things that just have to go right. And as of right now, it looks like it's going right. So I was thinking that, hey, man, that may take half a season or a full season to build the chemistry and to build that camaraderie and the leadership in the locker room and to get guys to buy into this system there for the Trojans. And you turn on the film last week, you turn on the film this past weekend versus Stanford, and it's moving so efficiently. Caleb looks great. The timing with him and his receivers, especially Jordan Addison, it looks like those guys have been throwing passes together for 2 or 3 years. It really does. I mean, go watch the film. He's hitting him on post routes and go balls, and Jordan's not breaking stride. It just everything seems effortless. It seems smooth, and they who knows how good Stanford is? Obviously Rice isn't a good football team. I think Fresno State has some ball players. We'll see what that looks like. Washington State on October 8th, and then obviously Utah the following weekend is kind of their two big challenges. But they got talent. It seems like that talent is working extremely well together, and their schedule sucks. Sucks in a good way for them. Sucks
in a good way. My favorite kind of suck.
Yeah, yes, the good sucking. They don't play anyone. I mean, Washington State and Utah are the only I don't even know how good Washington State is, honestly, but Utah's the only ranked team left.
Hey. Go Cougs, okay?
Utah's the only team ranked on their schedule.
Yeah,
only ranked team, and we hey, maybe that game versus Notre Dame in the season. Notre Dame sucks. So
nope, that game sucks. No.
There is a legitimate path for USC to make it to the playoffs. And offensively, I think they belong. And I'll let you kind of hit on the defense a little bit because you've watched that tape more than I have on that side of the football. But they got the horses on offense to score points and to stay with anyone.
By the way, Brum, having this whiteboard by me is so much fun. You probably hate it because I'm constantly looking at it, but it's awesome. Okay, check this out. So I agree with you. Legit playoff contenders for every reason you just said. As far as the offense goes, the best part about this team, in my opinion, obviously it's a skill position, right? It's Caleb Williams. Like, having a great quarterback is the most unstoppable part of football. But what makes it all work, Aaron, and when you speak to it looking easy and like everything is just flowing, it's that offensive line, dude. Their offensive line is solid as hell. And it's funny because when you flip on the USC tape, the first few series I saw was defensively, and I was like, bro, this team looks pretty small now that I'm actually sitting down and watching this thing. And I expected the O-line to look as small as the D-line. These are big, legitimate NFL-type O-linemen as far as their body profiles go. They're all redshirt sophomore and above. A redshirt senior center, Brett Nealon, if you could bring up that picture whenever, Brum. I'll talk to you about
please.
Brett Nealon. But at times they have two. Look at our guy Brett Nealon. Like, me, this is the man that I want leading my boys into battle. This man right here, mustachioed, sword in hand, just like a man should be. Look how thick he is, dude. Anyway, he's a redshirt center at senior making all the calls. Sometimes, so they have a left tackle that rotates between a redshirt sophomore and a redshirt team. At times, they have 3 redshirt seniors on the field, and they're all big, and they're all good. And so the thing is, if you cannot threaten Caleb Williams, the skill positions are going to kill you. And it's going to be damn hard to threaten Caleb Williams. And when you look at their schedule, who's the only team that maybe can? Utah?
Yeah, that's it.
And I don't even know how Utah's going to do
Utah's
against this
defense
USC
is
offensive line.
not great at all.
And so look, I will say this. I say yes, legitimate playoff contender, absolutely. I don't know about legitimate championship contender because unlike UGA and to a greater extent than Ohio State and Ohio State and Alabama, they have an obvious weakness, and that is the defense. I believe in USC. This morning on my radio show, Jacob Hester called me little Trojan boy. He meant it as an insult. I'm going to wear that with pride. I am a little Trojan boy, okay? Call me Petit Trojan. It's actually my T-Bob. That means Petit Bob. It means little Bobby. So I'm a literal little Trojan boy. Unfortunately, so's the USC defense, right? It's like Brum said before the show. The offense looks like, men of Troy. The defense in classic Greek fashion looks like boys of Troy. And I can only imagine what that offensive line does to that defense every day in practice. It's probably awful. It's probably just absolutely brutal to watch. It should be illegal. Somebody get Chris Hansen on the line. The point is, though, offense is incredible. Defense is a serious weakness. And that's why I don't think they'll win a championship. I will say this. I maybe got one. I feel like I've been on the USC bandwagon. I'm still not I want to see how they do this weekend against Fresno State. Because defensively, Fresno State, I don't think can break through that O-line. USC's offense going to roll. But look, Jake Hayner's having a hell of a year right now. I know they lost to Oregon State this last weekend, but he's currently 5th in the country. He's completing 75% of his passes. He's throwing for 380 a game. If USC's defense does like a respectable job against Hayner, then yes, I'm all in, full bore. But ultimately, I do think their defense is going to hold them back.
So right now, very confident 3 teams still to make the playoffs: Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. There's one spot left. Let me play this scenario out for you, and let me hear your opinion on it.
Okay.
USC loses to Utah regular season, comes back, beats Utah in the Pac-12 championship. They win with a 1 loss because someone in the comments goes, I think it was Rick, goes, if USC loses 1 game this year, they're likely out. I disagree with that. If there's a 1-loss USC team that still wins the Pac-12 and say 1-loss Big 12 team, whether it's Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, who are you putting in? I think they would lean towards USC at the end of the day.
It's SC, dude. It's SC easily. I know the Notre Dame game doesn't look good now, but in this scenario, they probably finish strong with like a nice win against Notre Dame. Even if they drop against Utah, that would probably mean that they came back and beat them in the Pac-12 championship, where they got wrecked twice last year, I believe, by Utah. So, no, man, I'm of the opinion 1-loss USC is in. Because the base reason,
but if they lose in the Pac-12 championship, I would say no. That's
sorry.
It has to be during the season. Yes, it has to be during the season.
You have to
not
win
Pac-12 championship.
Everybody, unless you are an undefeated Georgia or Alabama losing to the other undefeated Georgia, Alabama, you have to win your conference championship to get to get into the playoffs. So yeah. Look, I came away, I entered that USC film expecting in my head to be like, you probably overhyped them. I came away kind of higher on them than ever, again, because of that offensive line. And if they cover this weekend, I think it's like 12.5 against Fresno. They cover this weekend, we're full steam ahead. Ooh, Rick Rowland, who's in 1-loss Clemson or 1-loss USC?
USC.
But is the ACC not better than the Pac-12 this year?
I think there is a major want and need to put USC in the playoffs. Like, I just think for the brand of college football and what we're trying to build. I think they take that into
Conspiracy
account.
Aaron has entered the chat.
Yes, I think USC being in the playoffs over Clemson is better for college football. I do.
I don't disagree, dude.
And I'm not against Clemson at all. I'm just saying, like, brand wise and star power, USC will go in above a one-loss Clemson.
And you know what? Maybe it's ultimately just because they start higher, right? Or no, do they start? No, Clemson started higher.
Clemson's still
no.
higher.
Ooh, I don't know. Then that's a great question. I was also laughing not because
it depends
what
who
you
they
said
lose
about the
to.
media. Yeah, that's fair.
If you lose to Utah, then beat Utah. I mean, we're both guessing that if they're going to lose, it's probably going to be Utah at Utah middle of the season. If they revenge that with a win in the Pac-12, I think goes a long way. The issue is, who is Clemson going to lose to? Like, losing to Utah at Utah is a good loss. Clemson losing to someone in the ACC, I guess it's going to depend who that is. I think that obviously goes into it as well. I mean, we just have to pull up their schedule and kind of see who they could possibly lose to.
No. I don't even think we have to marry to individual teams. I think you're right. Like, the worst loss will probably be what holds you back, unless you would somehow avenge it in a conference championship setting.